In this video, we take a closer look at the slip of a belt in belt drives. We will determine the slip as a function of the transmitted circumferential force and the elasticity of the belt material. Slip is caused by the stretching of the belt as it runs around the pulleys and is therefore referred to as elastic slip. In the linked video on power transmission in belt drives, the development of elastic slip has already been discussed in detail. The most important basics are summarized in the following. As the belt rotates around the pulleys, it is subjected to different forces. When a circumferential force is applied to the belt by the drive pulley, the belt is subjected to high loads on the tight side of the belt. On the slack side, the belt force decreases and the belt is subjected to much less load. The different belt forces also result in different elongations due to the elasticity of the belt. If markings are evenly spaced on the belt in the unloaded state, the line spacing will increase on the tight side during operation due to the increased belt force and correspondingly decrease on the slack side due to the reduced belt force. The line spacing around the pulleys will gradually adjust to the new conditions. Note that the stretching in the animation is greatly exaggerated. If you now take a closer look at a belt section between two marking lines, this section is obviously stretched as it rotates around the driven pulley. The stretching belt section is pulled over the pulley, so to speak, which means that there is a relative movement between the belt and the pulley, resulting in slippage. Conversely, the belt section coming from the tight side and thus stretched to the maximum contracts as it rotates around the drive pulley due to the decreasing belt force. The belt shrinks, so to speak, on the drive pulley and a relative movement also occurs, resulting in slippage. So note, the belt stretches due to sliding processes on the output pulley in the direction of the tight side and contracts on the input pulley in the direction of the slack side. This phenomenon is known as elastic slip. It should be noted that the elastic slip does not occur over the entire wrap angle, but only in a certain area. This area is also known as the sliding zone. In the remaining area, the so-called adhesion zone, the belt is only in contact with the pulley without relative movement. The angle of the sliding zone can be determined using Euler's belt friction equation as shown. In this formula μs is the coefficient of sliding friction, Ft is the tight side force and Fs is the slack side force. Note that the belt forces Ft and Fs are the same on both pulleys and therefore the sliding zones on both pulleys cover the same angle. More detailed information on this can be found in the video on the basics of power transmission. As a result of the elastic slip and the different belt strain on the tight side and the slack side, a different belt speed is inevitable. Due to the conservation of mass, the same belt mass must be moved over an imaginary point on the tight side as on the slack side within a given time. Otherwise, between the two imaginary points, the belt mass would miraculously accumulate or disappear as more or less mass is moved over one imaginary point than over the other. If the belt sections on the tight side are stretched and therefore longer than those on the slack side, they must be moved faster to transfer the same mass as the contracted belt sections on the slack side. So note, the belt will move faster on the tight side due to the greater elongation than on the less elongated slack side. Belt strain and belt speed are directly related. The belt speed will increase or decrease as the belt elongates or contracts as it rotates around the pulleys. In the straight sections of the belt, where the elongation does not change due to the constant belt force, the belt speed also remains constant. The adjustment of the different belt speeds between the slack side and the tight side is achieved by the aforementioned stretching and shrinking of the belt on the pulleys. So note, the belt adapts to the different belt speeds due to the elastic slip on the pulleys. As the animation shows, the belt always runs slightly ahead of the output pulley due to the increasing elongation. The speed of the belt is therefore slightly greater than the circumferential speed of the driven pulley. This corresponds to the relative movement between belt and pulley described before. Conversely, the belt always runs slightly behind the drive pulley due to contraction. This means that the circumferential speed of the drive pulley is greater than the speed of the belt. So note, the circumferential speed of the input pulley is higher than the speed of the belt, while the circumferential speed of the output pulley is lower than the speed of the belt. The figure schematically shows the speed distribution along the belt. Here, V1 is the speed of the belt in the tight side, which corresponds to the circumferential speed of the input pulley, as the belt is in contact with the pulley in the adhesion zone without relative movement. V2 is the belt speed in the slack side, which in turn corresponds to the circumferential speed of the output pulley, as the belt initially rests against the output pulley without relative movement. Thus, the circumferential speeds of the pulleys are obviously no longer the same. This would only be the case with an ideally inelastic belt. In real belts, elasticity therefore results in a loss of speed between the input and output pulley. Note that this statement refers to circumferential speeds and not to rotational speeds. The more the belt is stretched, which means the greater the elastic slip, the greater the difference in belt speeds and therefore the circumferential speeds of the pulleys. For this reason, the strength of the elastic slip S can be defined by the loss of speed delta V on the circumference of the input pulley V1 and the output pulley V2 as indicated. So note, the relative loss of speed on the circumference of the output pulley compared to the input pulley is ultimately a measure of the elastic slip. The aforementioned reduction in the circumferential speed at the output pulley as a result of the elastic slip is also directly associated with a loss of power. The power is generally calculated from the product of the transmitted circumferential force Fc and the circumferential speed v. It is now immediately obvious that for a certain transmitted circumferential force, a loss of speed directly means a loss of power. Note that the elastic slip has no effect on the transmitted circumferential force Fc, as this only results from the difference between the tight side force Ft and slack side force Fs, and therefore applies equally to both pulleys. The elastic slip therefore corresponds not only to the relative loss of speed, but also directly to the relative loss of power between the output and input pulley. The actual calculation of the elastic slip is discussed in more detail in the following. As already mentioned, the belt strain epsilon and the belt speed v are directly dependent on each other. The more the belt is stretched, the faster it moves due to the previously explained conservation of mass. For example, if a belt section has a speed of 20 meters per second in any initial state and then stretches by 10%, the speed increases accordingly by 10% and is now 22 meters per second. The shown formula for calculating the speed v epsilon as a function of a given strain epsilon therefore applies in general. V0 denotes a reference speed in any initial state, to which the strain epsilon of the belt is then referred. This can be the unloaded state of the belt, for example. We will see in a moment that this initial state can in principle be chosen arbitrarily and ultimately has no influence on the result. Starting from such an arbitrary initial state, the belt now stretches differently under load in the tight side and slack side, which leads to different belt speeds. The belt strain in the tight side is denoted as epsilon t in the following. This means that the indicated formula applies to the belt speed V1 in the tight side, which corresponds to the circumferential speed of the input pulley. In the same way, the strain epsilon s applies to the slack side, so that the indicated formula applies to the belt speed there, which in this case corresponds to the circumferential speed of the output pulley. Using these formulas in the definition of elastic slip, we can see that the reference speed can be eliminated and therefore has no effect on elastic slip. This means that only the strains are relevant, but not the initial state, as long as this applies equally to both belt sections. At this point, it certainly makes sense to imagine the unloaded state as the initial state, even if this must not necessarily be the case. In order to determine the elastic slip, we must therefore determine the strains from the acting belt forces in the following. In the elastic range, there is a linear relationship between the occurring belt stresses sigma and the resulting strains epsilon. This relationship can be established using the modulus of elasticity E, also known as the Young's modulus. The belt stress in the formula given is the result of the quotient of the acting belt force F and the cross-sectional area A of the belt. Solving this equation for strain epsilon gives the strain as a function of belt force F. For the belt strain epsilon T in the tight side, we now use the tight side force Ft, and for the belt strain epsilon S in the slack side force Fs. If we replace the respective belt strains in the formula for the elastic slip with the corresponding expressions, we obtain the stated formula. This equation can be simplified as shown. We can now use the fact that the difference between the tight and slack side force corresponds to the circumferential force Fc to be transmitted. At this point, we express the tight side force Ft as the product of the tight side stress sigma t and the cross-sectional area A of the belt. After factoring out the cross-sectional area A, the given formula for calculating the elastic slip is obtained. However, this formula can be simplified further, as practice shows that the belt tensions that occur are generally much lower than the modulus of elasticity. For example, the modulus of elasticity of flat belts is in the order of 1,000 newtons per square millimeter, while the permissible belt tensions are in the order of only 10 newtons per square millimeter. So even if we assume that the belt stress reaches the maximum allowable values, it is still well below the modulus of elasticity. Therefore, if we neglect the tight side stress compared to the modulus of elasticity, the following formula applies to calculate the elastic slip. The higher the circumferential forces transmitted and the more elastic the belt, the greater the elastic slip, as this leads to greater elongations. It should be noted that the lower the modulus of elasticity of the belt material, the greater the elasticity. As already explained in detail in the video on the basics of power transmission, the circumferential force to be transmitted can be determined from the torque M1 and the radius R1 of the drive pulley as indicated. The circumferential force to be transmitted can also be determined from the drive power P1 and the rotational speed N1 of the input pulley as shown. The formulas given therefore also apply for calculating the elastic slip. As a final example, let us consider a motor with an output power P1 equals 4,000 watts at a speed N1 equals 3,000 revolutions per minute, which drives a pulley with a diameter D1 equals 100 millimeters. The belt has a width of B equals 20 millimeters and a thickness of S equals 2 millimeters, which corresponds to a cross-sectional area of A equals 40 square millimeters. The modulus of elasticity of the belt material is 500 newtons per square millimeter. These values are now inserted into the formula for the elastic slip. We obtain a value of 0.013, which corresponds to an elastic slip of 1.3%. The speed loss or power loss between the input and output pulley is therefore 1.3%. This is a typical value for the elastic slip of belt drives.